Okay guys, it is time to find out what happened to this car back here. That car right there. We're at the end of the story here and can't wait to bring it to you. So JB, where we left off with this car, it was just being color sanded.
Right.
And there certainly was a lot more to go, and here it is looking beautiful. What happened in between? What did you have your crew working on?
Well, most of the lion's share of the work goes into the actual preparation of the metal, sanding of the primers and painting it, and then color sanding the paint and the clear coat more accurately. And that delicate procedure that goes on right at the very end. And then you hit it with a buffer. So then you have two levels of buffing that we have to accomplish. Because we had three guys working on it simultaneously, it was a matter of creating a jurisdiction for each one. One got two doors, one got a fender and a hood, and the other one got the body. So there was a division of the work. And John, our trim guy, said he's never seen three painters work on the same car because usually they're very territorial. They don't want to share the glory or the problems that might be associated with it. So they're kind of provincial in the sense that they want, if I'm going to do this car, they want to do it start to finish, and that couldn't happen with the circumstance we had. We didn't have enough time to allow that to happen.
So what kind of outside vendors were you working on as far as trim pieces or outside parts of this car beyond your guys?
Yeah, and of course there are still a number of things. One of the benefits of this car was that it was already assembled and operating when we started. If we had to start with a car that was completely inoperable and had all kinds of different fundamental problems, we never would have been able to accomplish it in the time we had.
Yeah.
And I understood that, and that's one of the reasons we picked this car, because it already ran and drove. The interior was pretty much intact except for the carpeting. And so we had a reasonable shot at doing it. Still was a long shot.
Yeah.
And I'm still amazed that we actually in fact did it.
And so that's kind of the part of the story we were hesitant to talk about early on.
Yeah, because we honestly didn't know if we were going to make it or not.
Okay, and let's go ahead and say what we were making it to. What was the time frame when you were given the phone call and asked if you could bring a car to the Arizona Concours?
Right.
How many weeks before the show was that?
It was about 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
And
you were looking out the window at a car that had kind of dull paint. It was all there.
And lots of other things that had to be taken care of.
Okay.
So it was really a daunting kind of thing. We knew we had to, obviously we're going to have to all concentrate on it, not just me, but three other really talented body people and painters. And we had to do it in a collaborative kind of way, which we were not used to. Usually a car is assigned to an individual, and he sticks with it, and he strips it, paints it, finishes it, puts it back together. And so he has responsibility for that, and they're very proud about that sort of thing.
Sure.
It's a little bit of competition between the guys, which is ordinary and healthy. But in this case, there wasn't any time for that. We had to just all pitch in together, all 4 or 5 of us. In working on one car, that's a lot of people, and a lot of, especially if they're individuals and have a lot of pride.
What decisions did you have to make along the way?
Well, the division of labor was the hardest part, and I kind of stepped away and let them do that, because if management is really, really simple. You simply find really good people and get the hell out of their way. Yeah. And that's always been my credo. My dad taught me that, and I pretty much put it into practice over the last 50 years, plus years. Okay. And it works very well, and it gives that person that you've assigned that work to responsibility and authority, but also the pride of ownership in the result.
Okay, so now when it was like a few days away and it still wasn't ready, kind of what were the pressure points that you were finding at the end?
Well, other than considering suicide, really I kind of had a belief that we could pull it off.
Okay.
Although arithmetically it didn't make any sense, frankly, from the amount of time we had. Because we don't know how to throw a car together. We just don't know how to do that. Yeah. So we're going to do it the long, hard, good way. And that, generally speaking, means that you just got to take whatever time is required.
Right.
And So it's not as easy as doing a quick once-over that you have seen sometimes even on television where these guys do a car in 2 weeks.
Right.
You don't want to know where that car is 2 weeks later.
Right, we've talked about that before. There's no such thing as a 5-day paint job.
No,
because
no,
of
it's ridiculous.
reasons of things, the process of, you want to have this car and enjoy looking at it in 5 years from now, not just in 5 days.
Well, I said a number of times before we went to the show, I'd rather have the car done correctly the way I want it than the way it should be done for purposes of this particular show. And there's a very individual set of requirements for a concours. It's not, we talked about this earlier, it's not about what's right, and you don't get to build up credit points for what's right. You only get to lose credit points for what's still lacking,
right,
or still remains to be done. And we had a few mechanical things that still needed to be done, and we had no time to actually finish them. And so in that sense, I learned a lot. In fact, I got one of the judges off to the side and I said, tell me how this thing works. Because I've been to them, I've been judged a number of times, but I really never had the foresight to say, how does this work? And he was very helpful. He said, look, it's a deductive process. Everybody here, we expect it to be 100%. Everything. That takes in a lot of real estate.
Right.
And hundreds of things that potentially could mark you down, and that's exactly what happens. So if a car is inspected at close quarters by some really smart people like these guys are, there's no hiding anything from them.
Right. They're going to find it.
They do this for a living. We were too frantically trying to do whatever we could do to get it done, and it's, I think, it's very important to understand that there are different kinds of car shows. Right. Very much different in the sense that in a regular car show, you go just because you're sharing your car with other people and you want to have that experience and have people come over and appreciate the car, hopefully for the right reasons, which is that you don't really own a car like this, especially it's not really yours. It belongs to the world, and you got to get used to that.
You're a temporary caretaker.
You're a caretaker, and you are doing it for the purpose of allowing other people to enjoy it. And if you don't understand that, you're not really understanding cars at all. Cars are about the beauty of them, the sculptural characteristics, and the things that we've gotten away from with modern cars. And this is a harkening back to where art really played an important role. And so, we have a responsibility to take care of them and show them to other people. But when you go to a judge show by judges that are paid to be judges and flown in from around the world, they're really, in their context, they're looking at a car like this, which they may not have a lot of experience with, and they're saying, what's wrong with it? What is obviously, to my view, in a very short period of time, wrong with it? And they're looking for things that are out of whack with perfection, and most of the other cars don't have that problem.
So many people watching probably haven't been to a concours show like that. Right. How would you describe the peers, the other cars that were there?
It went from perfect and went up from there. And clearly we were not perfect. Okay. We had some things still remain to be done. We simply didn't have the time. So I gave ourselves a break. I was amazed, frankly, at what we did get done. Right. But I also learned that if I'm going to go back again, I'm going to have to take more time. I'm going to have to spend more time on mechanical things and things in the engine compartment and things that need to be addressed and given their appropriate amount of time, not just the jewelry, as one person described it, which is the steering wheel, the exterior and the interior. You have to remember that it has an engine, a transmission, and a rear end too. Right. And these guys are looking for things that aren't resolved and things that are not done correctly and are not detailed properly, even in so much as if it's, for instance, if something is done in gloss black and it's supposed to be matte black, you get a deduction.
That's an actual problem.
That's a problem! In the real world, not so much in a judge show, they're going to be looking for that stuff. They're looking for reasons to separate the different competitors because their job is to find something wrong, and if they can't find it wrong, then they go on to other ways of judging a car. Okay. Beauty, rarity, some of the other things that enter into it. But if you can't pass the mechanical, you're in trouble.
Okay, JB, so can you tell me what the theme of this show was, the Arizona Concours 2023?
The theme was aerodynamics and the way it interplays and how it influenced design, and really that emphasis was really peaked in the 30s, and this, of course, is an excellent representation of a 30s car.
Right. And you can see just the way the shape, whether it's the hood or the fenders or the roof or the trunk, like everything feels like aerodynamics. The flow of air seems to be a part of it.
It is, and they were just coming to grips with the idea that cars, if they were going to go faster, they'd have to be more aerodynamic. When you only wanted to go 30 or 40 miles an hour, aerodynamics didn't play into it. But that was when race cars were starting to become very powerful and go really fast. And certain cars hit a barrier, and that barrier was the frontal area and the ability of the air to flow over the car in a streamlined way. And the Cobras of the 60s are a perfect example. They hit a wall when they got in certain races. When they got up around 200 miles an hour, the car simply wouldn't go any faster.
Now, coming back to the Zephyr, was it known as a fast or a top speed kind of a car back in the time?
Yeah, I think in its day, being a 12-cylinder car and being able to go 80 miles an hour effortlessly. Yeah, that put it way above the normal everyday driving car. Most cars wouldn't go over 60 miles an hour unless they were falling off a cliff. So it really did exceed a lot of especially in the production kind of middle range. You had Duesenbergs and that sort of thing, which were 5 times the price, and they would go faster. But for a production car to go 80 miles an hour, that was a big deal in 1938.
Right. Okay. Very nice. So, how long have you owned this car? Let me ask you.
I've had it about 4 or 5 years. Okay. And we left it alone because it was a good driving car. And we didn't really see the point in it, but these guys needed an original car, and that's what this car is. So we didn't want to show up and soil our pants, as they say. So we figured that if we were going to go, and we were invited now. This guy that ran the Concours knew we had one and invited us, and so that was a very high honor, and I took it to mean that we had a responsibility. This wasn't to go show off, this was to show up for an assignment, the way I looked at it.
It was kind of like supporting the team, more or less.
Exactly. I mean, nobody gets paid to go to these things. You don't pay to go to them either, which is ironic. The only people that are actually paying are the people coming to enjoy them, and then that money is distributed to bear the costs of the whole event. But we were also volunteered to help out with the administrative part of it, and that was a real honor. So it was a really great experience all the way around. And like my son said, we didn't go there to get ribbons. We went there to get the experiences of doing it, and also to upgrade the car, because after all, you might have got a ribbon, we end up with this, so you tell me.
Well, I would say you won twice. First of all, it was a win that you were invited.
Yes, it was.
And then it was a win that you managed to get it together and show up.
And we still have it, and it benefited from that effort. And that effort, we can see that the benefit of that for a long time to come. Because, this is a family member now. Right.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yep, so you expect to keep it a long time, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, in case someone watching this say, hey, is that thing for sale?
No, 2 things.
Okay.
Never call it a thing. And secondly, don't bother, okay? We already had that conversation with somebody. They said, you're going to go to that show and somebody's going to walk up and say, I want to buy it. And we're going to say, sorry. Yeah. You can't buy this car.
That's right.
You just can't.
Yeah. Well, JB, thanks for sharing this car.
Yeah.
And, it is really beautiful.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing it and enjoying it afterwards as well.
Excellent. All right.
Cool.